Hey there, folks. So these are some other Porter cable tools that I've collected. These are the K series circular saws that were made, different models from about 1929 into the mid-50s. And these were extremely heavy duty, literally heavy. This is a 16-pound circular saw. Amazing machines, so amazing that they last this long. This K88 here is at least 80 years old, and after a rebuild and a refurbish, it's as good as it was. I mean, it's got another couple decades of life in it. Yeah, they're beautiful. You polish the castings, and they're just a wonderful thing. And notice a few things about them. They're kind of old-fashioned. This jackknife style guard is kind of old-fashioned. This is your depth adjustment here, which is basically there's like a dovetail metal piece in there with just a screw drive for the height adjustment. And then this is your bevel, just a wing nut. Big aluminum wing nut here, and you can bevel. They, well, I don't have one out here, but they do come with a rip guide, which is what these knurled bolts are for. This is a K88, which is an 8-inch saw. And the earlier ones are interesting. You can see you've got a small grease cup on the end here. You could take this off and pack it with a little bit of grease, and you could grease your rear main motor bearing. You can see your brush caps are right there. It's your switch, very heavy duty switch. And also something that Porter Cable did for many years, you can see a grease cup back there, and that allows you to keep your helical gears greased, because you've got a set of helical gears inside here. Very heavy pair of gears, and you know, if you use one of these all day long, maybe once or twice a day, give it a little turn, give your gears a little bit of grease. And I mean, this saw is 80 years old, and the gears have no real wear pattern on them at all. It's really incredible. I've taken this saw apart, and it takes 4 bearings, 4 ball bearings. I've actually put sealed bearings in it, so this grease cup doesn't really serve any purpose anymore. Although obviously you want to keep this one topped off for your gears. And it's just it's an amazing thing. It's heavy, but I mean, just think about the original owner of this saw. This saw is from the mid to late 30s. Original owner of this saw has been dead likely for many years, and it's going to be around for many more. So there were many different models. The K88 was an early one. They made some 6-inch saws, which are pretty rare. There's a K75, which is a 7.5-inch saw. Let's see. Over here is a K88C. That's just a later version of this saw. Still an 8-inch saw. Just looks a little different. The later ones have a little bit different style motor housing. You don't have that grease cap or cup here anymore. What you got is a little plug with a pipe thread on it, and you can pack a little bit of grease in that hole and then put the plug back in, and it does the same thing. So you got the 8-inch saws. There was a later model called a K89 that replaced this saw. Very similar. And then you got the 507, which is another 8-inch saw, which was made into the 1970s. And then you had the K10 and BK10, which are 10-inch saws, and then you've got the K12 and the BK12, which are a 12-inch saw, and that's the largest saw that Porter Cable ever made. Now some of these saws have obsolete size arbors. Most of them, you find a K75 or an 88C or an 89, they'll have a 5/8 arbor, which is pretty standard. The earlier K88 saws, for example, this one has a 1/2-inch diameter arbor, which is not a common size. So what you'll have to do is you'll have to have a bushing, a little steel ring with an inside diameter of 1/2 inch and an outside diameter of 5/8 of an inch, because your standard 8-inch blade nowadays has a 5/8 arbor. It's similar with the larger saws. The K10 and K12 saws have a 3/4 inch arbor, which is an uncommon size now. What you'll have to do is you'll have to buy a 12-inch blade or a 10-inch blade with a 1-inch arbor hole, and then again you'll have to find somebody who can make you a bushing to space that distance so you can install a modern blade. K12 is very similar, just bigger. It's a big thing for sure. Look at that. Now, these cord strain reliefs are pretty interesting. What there actually is in there is it's a brass compression fitting with a brass ferrule inside. And as you tighten this fitting, it compresses that ferrule against the cord, and that cord's not going anywhere. The guard has kind of a torsion spring inside this nut that comes apart. Sometimes those are broken. You'd have to make one of those. Those are obviously they're not available unless you have one. You can find one off of another saw. But yeah, these things are just amazing. They're fun to work on, and it's just amazing that I mean, if you don't have a burnt motor or something like that, sometimes you have cracked castings. Sometimes they can be welded. But if you find one that's in decent shape, you can replace all the major wear parts, the bearings, and you've got a brand new saw basically. These saws were very expensive when they were new. A K88 in the early 40s cost the equivalent of about $1,800 in today's economy. So that's pretty interesting. But these saws were literally industrial quality, and they were meant to be used 8 hours a day, 6 days a week for year after year if you wanted. So they're pretty incredible. But yeah, hope you enjoyed. Thanks for watching.